Thank you so much. My name is Pavol Szorad. I'm with Accenture. I'm an associate director based out of USA, and I am an OpenSlava co-founder. So 10 years ago, 10 years back, we were here in almost the same room. It looked different, and we started this conference, and I'm super excited to be here today. Edouard.
Okay, I'm Edouard. I'm based in France. It's a privilege to be here with you. I'm an agronomist, and I work for Envu as head of digital innovation. I'm super excited to show you what we do with AI today.
All right, so as you know, Accenture is a very big company. We do a lot of things for other big companies. And one of the trends that we see this year is that we are entering an era where these companies, these big enterprises, are entering what we call the total enterprise reinvention. And basically it means that a small subset of the top companies are driving the market. They are basically doing stuff that the others cannot. And they are not only reinventing how they do their IT, but how they do their business. And they are able to do it seamlessly and continuously. And we call these companies reinventors. In this presentation, we'll make a story about Envu, one of our clients, who is on the journey to be a huge reinventor. So let me talk a little bit about the context for this reinvention. We have 6 characteristics of reinvention. The first one, the strategy, is the reinvention. It is basically what companies do. They look introspectively at their business products, at how they operate, and they always try to find better ways how to do it, but also different ways how to do it. And they measure it and they improve. And part of the IT side of it is that they are enabling their originally siloed systems to be what we call unlocked and integrated better together and democratized. So any particular vertical or business unit can go and tap into the data that belongs to this company, to this enterprise, and make sure that they use it and combine it in different ways. And they also combine it from data from other sources outside of the company. But the real power is the outside data plus the inside data. And together we call this the digital core. It's much more complicated than that, and it's much more complicated to do it. But that's the context for what we want to unlock. And in these ways, how we unlock the data and how we combine it, we go way beyond just what the market tells us. We always try to do innovating things. Innovation is part of reinvention. It's what's all it's about. You cannot do reinvention without people, so you need to bring them along, you need to listen to them, and you need to enable them. That's why the number 4 is this talent, reinvention. And their last 2 things are that there are no boundaries. In this case, the space is not the final boundary of the reinvention that the Envu is going through. And we break down organizational silos, we break down verticals, and we do this continuously over time. So in this context, we're bringing you an example where there's last force that combines these 6, and that is the exponential nature of it. So it's not enough to do 1 or 2 of these things great, but you have to look at outside of the what you have and bringing new ideas. And one of these ideas, one of these forces that unifies us in this case is the boom of space innovation. So let's take a look what our friends at Accenture Space Innovation put together in this case.
When you look up at the sky, there's a feeling of awe, of wonder, of infinite opportunities. What seems so distant is already in our grasp. We're joining our partners to take the next small step and the next giant leap. Looking down from space, Ours is a world filled with beauty and inspiring possibilities just over the horizon. At Accenture, we're embracing innovation in space technology and turning those possibilities into realities. We're connecting satellite constellations for easy and secure communications, using satellites to help farmers prevent disease and improve crop yields, combining Earth observation with AI to protect delicate ecosystems and help keep our planet thriving. If you're already working in space, we'll help you do more. If you're still on the ground, we'll light the way. We're finding new ways to get there, new ways to learn, and new tools to assist us. Looking ahead, the opportunities in space are limitless. We'll be pushing the boundaries of exploration, inhabiting new structures and ecosystems, creating new areas of growth. It's an epic journey of discovery, and there's room for all. So when you look up at the marvel of space, remember, we can help you launch your company into its next great adventure. Your next steps in space start with Accenture.
Very nice. Thank you. And so what is behind this boom of space innovation? We are identifying three very concrete reasons. The three very concrete reasons are there are more satellites, there are more companies doing satellite imagery, there are more companies launching satellites, or monitoring them, providing access to that data as a service. And these satellites are not only, it's not only that there is more of them, but they are much better than before. There are a growing variety of sensors, all kinds of sensors. We'll look at some of them. And then you are probably very intimately aware that we are much better at doing analytics like that, let's say, 10 years ago. So we can take this huge amount of data that would be impossible to process on computers, let's say, 20 years ago, and we're able to distill insights from all of this data. And the main thing is that all of this is in the service of total enterprise reinvention. So what is Earth observation? And I want you to stay with this theme, these three topics, as we go through the presentation. It is the collection, analysis, and presentation of this physical information about the planet, or about what we have here on this planet Earth. So what we get from remote sensing, about what we say here, the physical, the chemical, biological systems, in our case, biological for sure. So we're using remote sensing, which is opposite of on-site data collection, for various purposes. And those purposes are in twofold. First, you want to know about places that you cannot otherwise reach because they are too far away, too dangerous, too complicated to get there, or it's too expensive. And you want to know about them through various means. And then the second most important use case when you think about how enterprises reinvent themselves is that you want to know where your stuff is. And you don't want to just know which warehouse, but across the globe. So it's basically asset monitoring. I know at all times where my stuff is. In this presentation, we'll look at the first topic, right? We'll look at areas we want to see. So I want to ask the audience, what are various ways you can do remote sensing of, let's say, remote areas? At least two people, someone. How can you see, how can you approach other places without being actually there? How can you see them? One is very obvious, I guess, satellites, because that's in the name of the talk. But there are other ones. There are drones. You can fly drones over there. You can deploy out IoT sensors in various ways. You can do planes. But in our case, we are looking at satellite imagery and satellite hyperspectral imagery. And there are many, many other ways that go into these two categories. Basically, just to give you an example, We're looking at optical, we are looking at video, we are looking at thermal, we're looking at radio frequency analysis, and sometimes even non-imagery. We deploy sensors that sense basically the gravitational waves and can uncover various events in space that we are not aware of that infect our planet. But again, in our case, we're looking at two very specific areas, and that is the optical and the multispectral and hyperspectral. So what is optical? Optical is basically you looking from space down and utilizing technology that is very similar to your own eyes. You look at color, right? RGB is roughly how it works. You look down and you see a top-down view of Venice here. And you can see where the streets are and where the water is and of various things. It's arguably the most well-known way how we utilize satellite imagery, because we have very long history of working with computer vision. But we can use it for innovative ways. For example, automatic generation of 3D maps like Google Maps can do, or urban mapping or deforestation tracking. The more new one, or the more advanced one, would be looking at hyperspectral data. So this is basically stuff like infrared or ultraviolet in spectrums outside of the vision that you normally have. And that's the multispectral approach. And then hyperspectral is spectrums inside of those bands. So it's kind of like a higher resolution of the data you get. And here is where it gets interesting, because we can do detection of flora. We can do detection of plants. So there are other use cases, or many use cases for Earth observation. To give you an example, Accenture invests heavily in this area, not just by doing nice videos, but actual investments into companies that do hyperspectral satellite imagery, like Pixel, or collaborating with a company called Planet to do use cases around sustainability and traceability. We also have a very, very advanced use case where we are able from the space see methane gas and the emission of methane gas in various industrial environments. And basically, we can immediately send, let's say, a service truck to that place to fix a methane gas leak. And also very, very useful in US, we have a wildfire response through a combination of data you see on the satellites, data you see from IoT sensors, and various other use cases. So you walked into this room and you're thinking, well, where is the AI, right? And so what are the three phases that I mentioned that we have in Earth observation? You acquire data, you analyze it, and then you present it, right? So AI is there in the middle. You get the data from satellites, you analyze it at various speeds, whatever your business need is, real time, near real time, 10 days later could be. And then you have some type of an insight that you put into production with the actual clients. A very simplified case, how it looks behind the scenes, is over here. You have, let's say, Satellytics is our use case where we get data from satellite data. We combine it with the digital core, with the internal data that you have as your company, let's say about your customers, about the information, let's say your biologists know, or people in the field that know about various topics, let's say where various areas are that are threatened, and then you put it through the machine learning model. In this case, it's a very, very light, simplified example how it works. And then you do the next best action. So I would like to pass the word to Edouard, who will talk about how we do it with Envu.
Thank you, Pavol, for the great introduction. In order to set the scene a little bit, I'm going to show you this small video which is explaining what we stand for.
This is a call to those who know that the force of humanity and the force of nature can be one another's greatest adversary or greatest asset. And that by coming together, we can build something new by balancing our strengths and committing to ourselves, each other, and a common goal. We can face the future's toughest challenges as one. Together, we can prevent disease for future generations, protect infrastructure, beautify environments, feed the forests, feed ourselves, and create a world where we can grow healthier, safer, and stronger. This is a call to join us. This is a call to be a force with nature.
Okay, so this is basically showing you the breadth of markets that we are touching with our experience. Doesn't show you very well what we do actually. So let me tell you a bit of history about us. So we are historically part of Bayer, the large chemical German company that probably everybody knows in the room here. And we've been actually carved out of Bayer, and we became an independent company. 1 year ago, we actually just celebrated our first year anniversary. And that means that we are actually the only company on the market which is solely focusing on environmental science problems. So I'm going to explain you a little bit more what that actually means. This is great because not being part of this large Bayer company is enabling us to aggregate solutions as we wish to solve environmental problems. And we are using tools which are not belonging to the chemistry area anymore, but to the digital space and other spaces as they are relevant to solve the problems of our customers. We are now a mid-sized company, just south of 1,000 employees, present over 44 countries, and we can tap into more than 120 active chemistry ingredients to solve problems that our customers are facing around the world. So what are those problems? So I'm going to show you a few things here. Don't worry, I will not cover the whole spectrum. One of our key markets is pest management. So basically, we have expertise in getting rid of rats, bed bugs, cockroaches, all those little things that are making our life miserable. We have large activities in Africa, Southeast Asia to protect people against dengue, malaria, and we have solutions which are preventing the emergence of resistant species of mosquitoes, which are obviously vectors for disease. Okay, we operate on all of those markets. I'm not going to go through all of them. The topic of this presentation today is the range and pasture markets. But before we hop on there, I wanted to show you another cool thing we do with AI. So we are now in the train industry. We're in Europe. So I'm showing you here a product which is used by major train operators in Europe. When you operate a railway network, what you want to make sure of is that you operate a safe infrastructure in order to make sure your service is up to the expected levels of standards by your customers, right? So you want to make sure you get rid of the weeds which are on the track. It seems a bit trivial, but it's not so simple. So we've got two options. Or you spray the whole track with chemical products, and I think everybody would agree it's probably not the best thing to do. Or you're smarter about that. And that's what we decided to do. We basically built a train purposefully, actually, which is basically able to recognize the weeds by the side of the tracks and spray the right product on the right spot so that you are very cautious about the use of chemistry. And by doing this, you can save up to 80% of the chemical products that you're using. So that's another very interesting use case for AI. Now, let's go to the range and pasture market, which is a US business, right? So our customers are basically ranchers. So we are in the world of cowboys, of those very wide spaces covered in grass, which is mostly used for cattle feeding, right? For cattle breeding. In terms of ecosystem, what we're looking at is basically all the yellow on the map here. So we're looking at a space which is about a third of the size of the US, so massive space, and various type of ecosystems in there, all the way from the mountain type of ecosystem to semi-desertic things. What's the problem we're trying to tackle here? Those ecosystems are threatened by invasive species. They've got nothing to do with the local ecosystems. They're coming from abroad, mostly from Europe, in fact. And what are those invaders? Two types here. So on the left of the screen, you see brushes. So this is honey mesquite. It's a very nice tree, full of yellow flowers. And you see on the right of the screen, a little weed. So they don't look so threatening when you think about it. But let me show you the effects. So this is a rangeland which has been invaded by honey mesquite. So you can see the rangeland is covered in trees which are sucking up all the nutrients and killing the local species, reducing the biodiversity. Similarly, let me show you how the ecosystem is looking like when it's invaded by non-native species. So this is less than 20% cover, then up to 70% cover. You can see it's not so nice to graze if you're a cow, right? And now it's just like hell. It's a desert, right? And this is causing even more problems than what you might think. You might think, okay, it's just bad for the rancher who cannot feed the cattle, but so what? Actually, this is a problem because this is fine fuel for wildfires. So your whole thing will burn, which is causing even more problems, is that those little weeds are super smart. When they burn, the vegetation around them burns as well, so they settle even more faster, they cover even more ground, and your biodiversity reduces drastically in your ecosystem. You've got also a problem of soil carbon storage because those invasive species have very shallow roots, which are storing very little carbon in the soil. And they are replacing native species, which have much wider and deeper root system, which are storing about 50% more carbon. And obviously, you cannot feed your cattle anymore. So those are the problems we are trying to tackle here. And what's our solution? So the solution is called RangeView. It's an AI-powered solution, which we combine with our chemistry. And at this point, you might think, hold on, guys. You said you were a chemistry company, but you're not tech, right? And we are not. So we had to partner with people who have that knowledge and combine our business knowledge, our chemistry and biology experience. That's what we know, that's what we do, with technologies that we didn't have, but were already on shelf. And basically, we collaborated with Satellytics for the imagery and with Accenture to put this product together to help us with the modeling, with the thinking, and do the right thing, and basically enable this transformation that Pavol was talking about. And we came up with RangeView, which is a web-based platform where ranchers can log their fields, log their lands, and order directly AI-based analysis, which is going to tell them how much and where do they have those invasive species. And you might think, well, this is not rocket science, really. I mean, can't you just go around in the field and see for yourself if they are there? The problem is that those ranches are so wide. We have customers with ranches of more than 20,000 hectares. Just to give you an idea, in Europe, like the average farm is 150 hectares. So this is insanely big. So you need remote sensing to really understand what you have to do about those invasive species. The other cool thing is that those two business models are feeding each other. We have the know-how in chemistry, we have the products to get rid of the weeds, to get rid of those invasive trees, and we obviously sell them to our customers. Our customers need to understand where the weeds are so that they can use the products. So they basically pay for both sides of the model, and we get more customers through the digital platform to use our chemistry, and both models fuel each other. What's really cool as well is that we find ourselves in a position where we are actually now selling a software with analytics, and this makes us legitimate on the business of software as a service. So we are going into that space as well, continuing the transformation that Pavol was talking about. Okay, how does it work? The detection principle is rather simple, but we had to come up with that. So those invasive species all have a specific life cycle. and they take different colors, different spectral signature that you can identify during their life cycle. So on the picture here, you can see this reddish kind of zone. So this is where the cheatgrass is. So what we do to train the AI model is basically we go boots on the ground with sensors, and we identify the spectral signature of those plants, which can then be used to train the model and recognize from the sky where the invasive species can be found. So taking a look at the product, if you're a rancher, you log on to the website, you define your pasture. So just to give you an idea, this pasture is a bit more than 1,000 acres, so you could fit the center of Bratislava in there. You then order, it's just like a marketplace, you order the analysis you want, cheatgrass, brush, whatever type of grass you want to analyze, and you're gonna get, as a final product, a map with the levels of infestation that you should be taking care about. And then you can decide what zone you want to prioritize, what zone you want to treat. You obviously want to make sure that you don't do a mistake in terms of spending money for treatment which is useless. So this is what this map is used for. And as a rancher, I will pass that to a third-party company who is going to operate the treatment. And here is the result in the field. So on the left, so this is a picture of a trial that we've conducted with customers in Montana. So on the left of the picture, untreated, invaded field. And on the right of the picture, this is the restored ecosystem just after 2 years. And you're back on track, essentially. Thank you so much.